You know, here we are. The Bassmaster Classic's right around the corner, and you know, this is going to be a special one for me. It's going to be my 28th Classic, and you know, I think back over the years and all the Classic memories that I have, and I thought we'd just kind of go through and share some of my favorite Classic memories over the years, and just tell you my side of the story. You know, how I felt and what went through my mind. So here we go. So you look back to the Bassmasters Classic in 2001, New Orleans. Just coming off the year before, the Chicago Classic that Woo Daves won. You know, probably the closest to my backyard that it's ever going to be, a place that I really wanted to win at, and just couldn't get it done. You know, to this point in my career, I'm probably one of the guys that's looked at by the media as one of the best anglers to never win the Classic. And believe me, I hear it all the time. So it kind of starts to weigh on you, you know, and you think, are you ever going to be able to win one of these things? You know, so going into this Classic in New Orleans, you know, I practiced down there. It's hot as blazes. You know, we're there. It's summertime. A lot of things, you know, have to line up to be able to win the Classic. You know, I had a game plan there to fish to the west in the Bayou Black region, and it's an area that I'd fished in several other tournaments to that point, and it's an area that I had a lot of confidence in, and I was comfortable there. You know, there was talk of guys running to Venice and you know, blowing the tournament away. You know, the fishing's just so much better there, but there's a lot of risk, you know, to make that long run. I mean, it's 2+ hours, you know, fog, shallow conditions, a lot of treacherous running, you know, salt water, a lot of chance for breakdowns, to where if you just don't have everything go right with that long a run, you're not going to have much fishing time. The run to Bayou Black is where I was fishing was 90 minutes. You know, it's a long ways, but most of it's through the intercoastal. You know, it's a pretty safe run from that standpoint, and you still get most of your fishing day. You know, and you know, the tournament had a lot of things lining up that really went in my favor. You know, first off, we had a hurricane kind of looming offshore. And as the week went out, it continued to raise the water levels. It kind of got muddy, and you know, in the end, it really hurt that group of guys that were going all the way and making that long run down to Venice, because it was flooding that area. The tides weren't normal like that. Where over in Bayou Black, it's pretty protected there from, you know, you're well off the ocean, you're well off the, you know, the intercoastal. There's a lot of dead-end canals, there's a lot of clear water, there's a lot of grass to keep things filtered. You know, the water did come up and the water did get dirty. It didn't affect it like it was going to way south, that much closer to the ocean. Starting in that tournament, I had no idea that I would have any chance to be in contention to win. It was a tough event. You know, the weights were down. It's the hot, you know, summertime, and you know, temperatures in the 90s, and the humidity's way up there. And the bass just basically feed at night that time of year down in those bayous. And you know, after the first 2 days, I didn't really realize that I'd be in that position. But after the second day weigh-in, it's like, man, I can win this thing. And you know, the weights, like I said, were not the typical 15, 20-pound bags. I mean, 10 pounds was a really good stringer there. And you know, knowing that I had to go out and just execute on that final day was, you know, it's a lot on your mind. You know, you got all your family there. Everything's, you know, magnified. You got all the media, and here I am. You know, finally I'm in contention going into the final day. You know, got a good chance to win my first Classic, and it's a lot of pressure. So going into that final day, I knew that I had to make it happen. You know, I'd had 2 good days, been fishing really clean. You know, primarily my pattern was flipping. You know, I was flipping a jig, fishing a Strike King Wild Thing. It was a kind of a new creature bait, and you know, I was fishing hard structure. You know, the wellheads that were there, and some hyacinth clumps, things like that. It was just kind of junk fishing, just trying to find anything that provides some shade, and trying to find good quality water, and just fight through and get a handful of bites. You know, with that basically 90-minute run each day, you know, it left me a little over 5.5 hours of fishing time, 5 hours of fishing time. So you had to really be on it, be efficient, cover a lot of water, and the first 2 days worked out, good. I didn't miss any fish, I really didn't lose anything, and here I go going into that final day. So the whole run down there, you're thinking in your mind, man, what do I need to do? What's sequence? Which way do I need to make my milk run? I want to hit as many of these good areas and targets as I can, and I know that it's getting tougher each day. That water's coming up, the hurricane's coming, and the guys going to Venice are the same way. I mean, David Walker's going down there. A lot of the other anglers that were in contention were. Scott Rook was fishing over, in my area, and just being consistent kept a group of us right in there where the field was pretty tight. So I made that run. I started fishing, and it didn't really happen right off, but then I finally got a bite. And then, you get another one. And before you know it, half the day's gone, and I've only got a couple of fish. But I just, I kept that mental focus, and I kept saying, it's going to be the next spot, it's going to be the next stop, it's going to be the next stop. And then, I caught my third and fourth really pretty late in the day, and boy, that was just a huge relief. Just knowing that, I had a chance anyways, having a shot, but I knew that I had to have a limit. And, every day I've been able to catch a limit, fairly easy, still with a couple hours to go, and have a chance to maybe call once or twice. But it's not like you're going out and getting 50 bites a day, which we've seen a lot of times in the past down there as the fishing's really good, but it was really tough. And, finally I pulled up to a channel point. There was one lay down there. I pitched the jig in there, and I made 3 or 4 casts, and I fished it real slow, methodically, and I knew there had to be a bass there, and I got that bite, and set the hook, caught that 5th fish, and I mean, just what a relief. And I'm like, man, I have a little bit of time left. It was the smallest bass that I'd caught that day, but I knew that I could call that fish, and so I had a ton of confidence, and I put my best game plan together and ran the best stuff that I knew until I knew that it's like, hey, you've got to head back at this point. You've got to, you got to make that run, or you're not going to make it up. You're not going to make it back in time. And so, as soon as I got to that point where I knew I had to pull the trolling motor, I had a limit, but I didn't get rid of that one fish. I needed, I never had that kicker. I didn't have that, that solid day that you just, hope you have going in, thinking that, hey, I'm going to win this thing. All I could think about that whole way back is, man, I'm going to come up short again. I had a decent bag, but that one little fish kind of haunted me that I couldn't call him. And you're thinking, all your family's there. My mom and dad, my wife, the boys, they're all pulling for you. The most stressful part of the Classic is probably on your family. I mean, they're sitting there all day wondering. There's no updates. There's no bass track at this point or anything. Nobody really knows anything, and they're hoping for the best for you. And it's the same for me. You want to do good. I want to win just to prove that I can for my family as much as anything. And so that was a long ride back. And, we get back, you always, when you get back, the other guys that are in contention, everybody's nervous, everybody's wanting, hey, how'd you do? What's going on? And find out it's tough for everybody that day. I mean, everybody really had a, pretty tough day overall, and it's going to be a lot closer than any of us probably really ever thought. One by one, everybody weighs in, and each time it's like, hey man, I've got a chance. And I still remember it from the videos and the pictures and things like that. When David Walker weighed in, and I knew at that point that I'd had enough and what I needed to be on top, because I thought for sure that he was going to leapfrog me. Scott Rook was right there. When I saw at that moment that I won the Bassmaster Classic, I mean, I jumped, and You know, I'm not a basketball player or anything like that. It might look like I did a pretty good jump, but I might have got real wide, but I didn't get real tall. But I mean, the flood of emotion at that moment was, you can't replicate that. I wish that everybody that fished professionally or fished bass tournaments, got a chance to fish the Bassmaster Classic, could experience that moment, because there's really just nothing like it. You know, I mean, the Classic, it's the Super Bowl, and you know, it's been that. I grew up, you know, watching the Bassmaster Classic for years and years and years. I've seen, you know, so many Classic champions to that point, and seen how it changed their life, and just hadn't been able to get it done. So to have that moment there, and to know that your family's out there, you know, watching you, and they've been pulling for you and supporting you for all these years and following you, and you know, you really want to do it for them. And still, some of my favorite memories to this day are the look on of joy on the faces of Sherry and Jackson and Nicholas. And you know, obviously to have my whole family there, it's really special. But in that one moment there, on the stage, and then that victory lap around the Coliseum, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's the best feeling in the whole world. If you want to learn more about what it's like out on the tournament trail, follow me on social media, go to my YouTube channel, or go to KevinVanDam.com.